Today I'm talking with Ray Rothrock, who is CEO of Redseal Networks. Welcome, Ray. And not only CEO of Redseal Networks, but a VC of many, many years.
I have been, yes.
So what inspired you to take over the role of CEO at Redseal?
Well, Redseal has come to a point in its growth path that it needed leadership to really take it the rest of the way. It did about 20 million last year, which is a fantastic result, but finishing the job, I think, it's just important, and I've done it a few times.
Yeah,
so,
that you have.
Yeah.
So give us the elevator pitch on Redseal.
Well, Redseal's technology is something that every company has to have. You cannot secure what you cannot see. And Redseal's technology allows you to see every device on your network, its configuration, how it interacts with other devices on the network. And with that information and other vulnerability data that you might get from other vendors, you can actually configure your network to be more secure. And we provide priority lists, we provide reds and greens and yellows to tell you where the issues are. And nobody's network is static, it's a constant change. Every day something's changing. Firewalls are being reconfigured, some load balancers being reconfigured, everything's changing. So you need to use it all the time. So without it, you could be shooting in the dark or making a change that doesn't work or causes more problems.
So it's got the discovery part, it can ingest vulnerability information,
yes,
plus the policy.
Yes, it can do policy as well.
Yeah.
Although policy is always hard.
Yeah, oh, it is. It sounds like we're building into a big data problem here, because that's a lot of data, especially for a larger organization.
Exactly. I mean, a large organization could have 10,000 nodes or hosts out there. So it is a big deal. And look, at the end of the day, computers manipulate data very well. And if you give it the data and you know how to run the data and analyze the data, you can learn from it. And Redseal's technology does exactly that.
Is this a perfect storm for Redseal? I mean, what's your? I mean, step back a second. Tell us about the security industry.
Well, yes, of course, it's a perfect storm. The Target event last December and all of these things just point to how vulnerable the world really is. And I think that's a combination of now everything's on the net, the good guys and the bad guys. Organizations can get to the point where they can actually take action. They don't have to be states. The technology is available. You and I could go out and buy a kit that'll do cyber attacks for $25.
I don't need to buy that stuff.
No, but yeah, you already have it. Yeah. No, like for example, I visited the New York Stock Exchange last year with another portfolio company, and I was amazed. They have a threat map. And this threat map has all these red arrows that pointed into the New York Stock Exchange. They get something like 500 billion attacks a day or something. And there were these pockets out in the middle of the ocean. So I said, what are those? I don't, I'm not bad at geography, but what islands? I said, oh no, that's a pirate ship. So it turns out the threats can come from everywhere. And if you're not monitoring it and really taking control of it, then you're vulnerable. And I think that's what we're seeing in the headlines every day. So it is a bit of a perfect storm. That plus the fact that, I don't know how much venture capital's been invested, but they're here at the show, 1,000 companies, billions of dollars, lots of products. Where it used to be in the old days, there was a firewall maybe and a router, and that was about it. Now there's all this other stuff. So you've got the complexity of all these different devices. And so the team at a particular company like a Fortune 500, American Express, for example, or even the U.S. Army, those people cannot be experts at everything. And so now is the time we have all this product. You have a limited amount of IT capability, people capability, plus you've got these threats that are increasing. You need some technology to fill that gap, and that is what Redseal does. It fills that gap between what people can do and what your network actually is.
I talked to a lot of large enterprises who would say, oh, we already do all that. We've got all these different tools, and they just, they've got one of everything. Are you finding that the message is being well received in the large enterprise?
Yes, actually. In fact, our list of customers is to die for, and our deals are huge. I mean, our biggest deal is $5 million, but typically it's a $500,000-$600,000 deal. But we have a lot. I think there's 40 over $1 million or something, or no, 40 over $500,000. So it's a big problem. So the real issue for the big guy out there is that you're going to provide them a tool that's going to show them not only what's right, but potentially what's wrong with this network. That's the hard part, because no one wants to be embarrassed, right?
Yep.
You don't want to say your baby's ugly.
Yep, absolutely. So. And are you seeing a difference between acceptance of Redseal's products in North America versus Europe versus Asia?
North America, no problem. We're just now starting out in Europe and Asia somewhat, so hard to say at this point, but we have sales from there.
Yep. So is it going to take more investment to get
Oh,
to
for
those
sure.
regions?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll
Okay.
take more investment. Yeah.
And I think they've probably got a CEO that can generate trust in the investors.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I've raised money, but for venture firms.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
No.
Give us a little feel for, I guess, the size and growth of the company. So how many employees?
Today it's about 80 employees.
Okay.
We did about 20 million last year. You know, hard to speculate about the future. Big software like this, the sales cycle can be anywhere from 3 to 9 months, and it can take another 6 months to actually get it installed and deployed and used. A challenge for any complicated piece of software is to train the customer to use it to its most effective. So I'd say because we've only really been selling for 2.5 years, customers, our oldest customers are just now really grokking and getting everything about the product that it can do. New customers, you know, 10-20% of the value. So it's you make the sale, and then you deploy, and then you learn how to use it. And of course, any software, particularly in security, wants to go from sort of an operational status to a strategic status. It'd be great if it's someday, as an investor in this company and chairman of the board, my hope was that someday a CFO would stand up at some board meeting and say, we're in good shape because we use Redseal. It tells us exactly what's happening. They can come in every morning and know whether or not his network is getting better or getting worse every day, all day.
So the one area or two areas that Redseal isn't jumping on the bandwagon with that I've seen is so-called advanced threat protection, whatever that is.
APT,
So
yeah.
APT stuff, and doing malware analysis and sandboxes, et cetera. And the other one is network security analytics, which is capture all the traffic. And do you see a way to play with those new vendors that are doing that?
Yeah, yes, there's a way to play with them. I think the analytics side of it is much more interesting, frankly, because that really informs the people who buy the stuff, what they need to do and so forth. I mean, the APT is largely it's a host kind of an issue. You know, there's Palo Alto Networks and Checkpoint and all these guys have this technology that do that. So we can provide analytics of what gets through and what not, FireEye. But really the analytics about how things are configured and the interactions. I don't think the world, maybe this is one element of the perfect storm that doesn't exist, is that people don't appreciate how different elements of the network impact other elements of the network. Whereas that APT stuff is sort of focused on a point. The intrusion detection, that's sort of focused on traffic. Well, that's just one piece of the network. Redseal covers all of the network. So I think the analytics will be good because we can inform, well, this is happening in that part of your network, but it's not happening here, and we might be able to say, well, it's because of this. Or it's dripping from this side of the network into this side. Why is that? Point to that hole. And analytics in general just, you know, look, you cannot manage what you do not measure. And I think the world's coming, it certainly has come in the advertising world. Google sort of monopolized that nicely. There's no reason why someone like Redseal can't do the same in security.
So going further down my path, I'm sorry I'm using so many buzzwords, but how do you instrument and start doing that in the cloud?
Oh, in the cloud. Well, you know, we'll see how many people let their stuff go in the cloud. They'll let data and what have you, but their infrastructure, their architectures, their vulnerability issues, we'll see. But there's no reason why you can't run this in the cloud and understand an Amazon configuration or whatever. The other thing, if you hadn't taken my cell phone out, what if, you know, having the ability to do it from an app? Right. We actually are working on that right now, and that's a big deal, having that remote capability and so forth. But that's, you know, you can do some of it with VPNs and stuff, but there's architectural things that have to change.
And then if you've got a solution that's looking at everything on a network, then we have to get into all those things that typically aren't included on the network, you know, the thermostats, the refrigerators in the break room. Would you extend that far, or would you rely on other collection points?
I think Google's doing that nicely with their Nest acquisition. Oh, you know, physical security is something we've talked about, and we've had some very, very high-level, thin conversations with the physical security guys, the ADT and such. I don't think so. I think the digital network issues are so massive and so pervasive that we can have a very nice company just focusing on this.
Absolutely, and that's where all the good stuff is for the attacker anyways.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, they think.
Yeah. So you've invested in a lot of security companies. Give me a feel for what you think the market's like right now. It's starting to feel there's some big exits.
No kidding. Yeah. Yeah, the valuation. I saw a friend down on the floor a while ago, and it's like, boy, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, there would never have been an investor at the RSA show. I bet it's half investors this time. because the valuations are so frothy, the news, you know, anytime something sort of percolates above the crease in the New York Times every week, it gets our attention. But it's a long way from starting a company with an idea and actually getting product and revenue to have any scale and have a real impact. So I think the venture business is big, $15 billion. I think a lot of people are targeting some of their human assets to understand it better, the security, I mean. And they will be deploying a lot of capital. And you know, I'm still in 4 security deals, and 2 of them have raised money in the last year at very nice up valuations with little to no revenue. So there is definitely an appetite for it, and the world thinks that we haven't solved the problem. Obviously, they wouldn't be investing in more and more. So it's not a bad time to be a security investor.
Or a security analyst.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ray Rothrock from Redseal Networks.
Thanks. Thanks, Richard.